This video is brought to you by Resin Obsession. My name is Kerr, and today we're going to be making some vintage treasures out of old kitchen utensils that I found in the flea market. When I first spotted them, I had no idea what I was going to do with them. I was just really kind of captivated with the shapes of them and decided to bring them home. I first decided to add some paper to the back of the metal pieces, and I just used some tacky glue and attached it and let it dry, and then I was able to trim off any of the excess with a pair of scissors. Next, I added some Mod Podge to both the front and the back of the paper. I did this to seal it before adding the resin. While the Mod Podge was drying, I decided to add some patina to a metal frame. Today I'm using Jack's Brown patina. I just poured some in a bowl and added the metal frame. Make sure that you are following proper safety precautions and that you're reading the directions of the patina before using it. Once I took it out, I dried it with a paper towel and then cleaned it with ultrafine steel wool. I also glued on an image and sealed it with Mod Podge. Now today we're using Resin Obsession. This is a 2-to-1 ratio. I've already poured them into my little measuring cups, and make sure that you're following proper safety precautions, wearing gloves, and working in a well-ventilated area. I've already poured them, and I'm going to mix it for about 2 minutes and then let it sit for an additional minute or so, just to let it sit and let the bubbles come out. Once it's ready to use, I decided not to pour it onto my pieces. I wanted to have a little bit more control, and so I used a paintbrush, a disposable paintbrush, to add the resin to the paper. Next, I'm adding some resin to the frames. Again, I'm using a paintbrush and just spreading it over the image. Here I'm using a popsicle stick, and I'm just adding a couple of drops and using the popsicle stick to spread it out. This is just another way to have a little bit more control with the resin instead of pouring it onto the surface. Now I wanted to use these little brass filigree leaves as some sort of an embellishment, so I just added some resin to some more of that book paper that I used before, and then I just placed the little leaf on top of the paper and let it cure. Once they were dry, I went ahead and trimmed them with a pair of scissors. Now I wanted to add a little bit more texture to the frames, and so I took an awl and just scraped into the resin that had already cured, and then I added a little bit of metallic luster gold to the frame, and the metallic luster went into the little scratch marks that I made, which gives it a nice little subtle look. Now, if you wanted a more prominent look, you can also use black acrylic paint or another color to highlight the little scratch marks a little bit better. But I was looking for a more subtle look, and I'm happy with the way they came out. Next, I added some rub-ons to the paper part of the frames. And now I'm ready to assemble. I'm going to use a hot glue gun and attach the leaves to the frame. And I also created a little fabric bed out of assorted scraps I had laying around. I stitched on some buttons as well as a piece of cardboard in order to give the frame a little bit of height. I glued it on with the hot glue gun. Next, I added some fabric wire. I just took about a yard and looped it around a couple of times, creating a frame. And then I added some hot glue to the cardboard and attached the frame. One of the final steps is to add an additional layer of resin. I did this to seal the metallic luster and the rub-ons that I applied to the resin. It also gives the resin frame just a little bit more height. Finally, I topped it off with a little bit of gold glitter, the fine glitter. This was just to add a little bit of sparkle to the resin. Thank you so much for watching, and if you want more tutorials using Resin Obsession, be sure to stop by resinobsession.com.